Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I proudly stand before this House today, humbled by the trust that the people of the Kiama electorate have placed in me. I am conscious of the great responsibility that comes with being my community's representative, and I'm determined to be the strong local voice that we need here in Macquarie Street. I acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose lands this Parliament sits, and pay my respects to Elders, past and present, and to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us here today. I want to express my respect and gratitude to the peoples of the Dharawal and Yuin nations, the Wadi people, the Jirinja, the Wandi Wandian, to their elders, past and present, on whose country I live, work, and am raising my family. I especially want to thank Uncle Jerry Moore for his early support, Uncle Tom, Auntie Gwenda, and Uncle Stan for their continuing support and guidance. I will walk alongside our Aboriginal communities as an ally, always learning, and will represent the traditional owners of my community in good faith in every setting. It's a privilege to see the Dharawal and Yuin languages returning to country. I pay tribute to the leaders in my community doing this work, who generously share their knowledge and rich history and teach us how to better care for country and each other, lessons that we can all benefit from, irrespective of our heritage. They have lived and cared for country, its lands and waterways, long before George Bass first observed the Kiama blowhole in 1797. Our history of pioneering industry and enterprise is also a story of dispossession, colonisation, racism and stolen generations, and trauma from institutions like the Bomaderry Boys' Home. I acknowledge the deep and ongoing impacts of this lived experience, but also the resilience and resistance of culture surviving and the pride in culture being instilled by our elders in younger generations. I pledge to be an advocate for these communities. Today we see the threads of our histories woven together, this legacy of resilience and grit, from the first seeder-getters to the pioneering farming and dairy families whose descendants continue to proudly put food on our tables today, to the quarry workers who mined the blue metal that built Sydney's roads and our state's railways. These industries and pioneering people and the businesses and services that sprang up around them have shaped our area, and the tradition of hard work, enterprise and community continues today in a region that now welcomes thousands of tourists each year. We are an electorate made up of many towns and villages, each with their own identity, history and concerns, and it is that distinct character that we love. I bring the personal stories of people I grew up with and the hundreds of people who I have spoken to over the past few years in our electorate that I bring in with me to this place. And what I have learnt is that while we have our differences, what joins us together is our shared love of our home and knowing how lucky we are, despite the challenges, to live where we do. It is the beauty, livability and opportunities our area offers that draws everyone, from young families to retirees, to our electorate. But with this growth comes responsibility. We are an ageing electorate, with older residents who will need more care and services, and we face the challenge of growing our workforce to provide them with that care. This is why it is imperative that we build communities, not just put up more houses. Infrastructure must come online alongside growth, ensuring we have the resources, facilities and services in place to support our residents at every stage of life. We must plan sensibly in a way that respects and protects our beautiful natural environment so that we hold on to our wonderful sense of community and the character that makes this place so special. I will work relentlessly and with all levels of government to achieve this, and I will be a strong advocate for the investment, forward planning and sustainable solutions that my region needs to thrive now and into the future. For too long, basic infrastructure was treated as an optional extra by the previous government, and we are now playing catch up. Public schools, quality childcare and preschool, healthcare access, footpaths, playgrounds, green spaces, safe roads, and adequate transport links, these are essentials, and I will fight to ensure that they are never treated as afterthoughts again. I am proud to have advocated for and now be helping to deliver the extension of Tripoli Way in Albion Park. Yeah. Our new Calderwood public school with a public preschool on site and room for a future high school. Yeah. Historic investment into Bomaderry High School, a new preschool for Bomaderry Public and 2 modern hospitals at Shell Harbour and Shoalhaven. Yeah. However, what good are new shiny buildings and equipment if we fail to invest in the wonderful people who serve our communities in the public service, in our schools and our hospitals, as our first responders? I stood for election in 2023, calling for an end to the cruel wages cap that had eroded the pay and conditions of the people who deliver our vital services. Now, we are delivering genuine pay increases, better working conditions, job security for teachers and school staff. For the first time, we're paying our police recruits during training, and we're seeing an uptick in our graduate numbers. We're hiring more nurses to meet safe staffing levels and bringing more paramedics to our regions. I recognise that the same commitments must extend to the volunteers in our State Emergency Service, Rural Fire Service and Surf Lifesaving Clubs. They are the backbone of our community's safety. They put themselves on the line for us, and I will be a champion for the funding that they need to upgrade ageing facilities and get the equipment that they need to keep them safe while they protect our community. These are big challenges, but my approach has always been pragmatic and solutions focused, to bring people from across the spectrum around the table to find a space where we can all land that moves us forward and the solutions that we need to these wicked problems can be found. It's a lesson cemented over the past 2 years working for our regional peak body community industry group on behalf of and alongside our frontline not-for-profit organisations and community care sector services. These wonderful staff deal with the realities of homelessness, domestic violence, poverty, disadvantage, isolation and neglect, the hardest challenges our electorate faces. Yet they get together around the table, they listen to each other, and they work together to find real solutions. I've been privileged to work alongside our aged care and disability service providers as they navigate enormous reform, and our early learning educators who are fundamental to our state's future. The people powering these sectors have profoundly inspired me, and their dedication, expertise and unwavering care continue to do so today. We have more work to do to value and retain these skilled professionals. The demands for services in our community are growing, particularly for our most vulnerable residents. I will be a strong voice for our community services and will continue to advocate here for greater funding and resources to meet this need and for the recognition they deserve. 5.5 years ago, my partner Brian and I had our son William. I was pregnant during the Black Summer bushfires and the 2020 floods that devastated the South Coast. It was a time when old certainties were torn away and the reality and consequences of climate inaction and denial under successive coalition governments became clear. It had put us a decade behind in our fight against climate change and left our communities underprepared for the climate emergency that was upon us. In those first sleep-deprived years watching him grow, I found myself asking, what kind of world was he growing up into? Would he have the same opportunities that I had? I'd grown up in Kiama, spending my days at the beach, playing sport, getting a world-class public education, and my parents, a high school deputy principal and a journalist, could afford to buy a home and raise their family in relative comfort. Would Will and his mates have those same opportunities? A secure, affordable home, teachers who would stay in the profession they loved, a well-resourced public health system if you needed it? The simple answer back then was no. I saw teachers leaving the profession, burnt out and underpaid, nurses and hospital staff stretched beyond capacity, with no plan for more staff or a pay rise, and no commitment to move New South Wales to net zero or prepare for the economic opportunities the green economy would bring for our region. So when a dedicated crew of Kiama Labor members asked me whether I might consider running for the seat of Kiama, it seemed the answer was clear. As a lifelong optimist and a believer in the need to be inside the tent if you're serious about making change, I put my hand up to run in 2023. At the time, I spoke about the challenges our community faced, the lack of investment in long-promised but not delivered infrastructure, repairing our public education and healthcare systems, and the Ms Labor government's plan to tackle climate change and move us to renewables and build more homes while protecting our environment. 2.5 years on, coming in as the 45th member of this government, I can reflect on the work undertaken by my colleagues to tackle these challenges and the urgency they feel to drive more reform and to catch up for time lost under the previous government. And look at where we are in 2025. Legislated net zero targets, the biggest investment in renewable energy this state has ever seen, the biggest investment in social housing with 10-year plans to house every person and end homelessness. We've removed the wages cap. Teacher vacancies are falling and more teachers and support staffs have permanent jobs. 40 emergency departments around the state have additional nurses on shift to ensure safe staffing levels. The Great Koala National Park has been gazetted so kids like my son can discover a koala in the wild. And we have a legislated guarantee that the essential services people rely on, water, electricity, emergency healthcare, will remain in public hands. These precious basics, especially in a region like mine, must never again be sold off to the highest bidder who will put profit over people. I believe that a party of government should focus on delivering essential services, on fairness, on equity, and on making people's lives better. And I will work every day in this role so that no one in my community or this state is left behind. And this belief was instilled in me by my family, especially my mum and dad, Paul and Claire. Thank you will never be enough for the love and support that my parents have given me and continue to give every day. I never doubted I could because you believed in me so fully, and I would not be here without you. I would not be here today without you. To the rest of my small, loving, tight-knit crew, my brother Andrew and sister-in-law Danica, Nan and Pa Ron, Nan and Pa Mac, Auntie Anne and Uncle Alan, Rachel, Paul and Glenn, and now their partners and my nieces and nephews. Thank you for your love and support and for keeping me real. It was around our dining room table, listening to and later taking part in family debates, that a deep abiding sense of fairness and justice was ingrained in me. We are a union family. We believe in the importance of sticking with your colleagues for a fair deal and safe working conditions. We are a Labor family. We believe in opportunity for all, in lifting each other up, and in the transformative power of education and the right of all families, regardless of their income or postcode, to a world-class public school. It's a deeply held belief that guided my nan Pat, a kindergarten teacher, and later my mum, a somewhat retired, a high school deputy principal, throughout their careers, and that deeply inspires me. If education is the great uplifter, then Mum's gift has always been to draw those in her orbit, friends, students and staff, into believing in themselves in the way that she does. Her direct, no-nonsense approach, delivered with great warmth, helped so many overcome the doubts and adversity to succeed. She always saw the whole kid, the circumstances around them, never just the behaviour, and that really stuck with me. She's still at it today, warmly encouraging HSC students before exams. Come on, you've got this, you've done the work. Now go back yourself and give it a go. Her impact has been astounding. You can't go shopping near her old school without being stopped by a former student who proudly updates her on what they're doing now. She now pours that energy into campaigning for better government that will help those most vulnerable, and I'm so proud to do that with her. My dad is a man of deep integrity and a keenly adventurous spirit, respected by everyone he's worked with. Journalism took him overseas for 10 years before he landed back in Australia, working at the Sun afternoon newspaper in Blacktown with my granddad Ron until it closed in 1988. Dad's adventures meant the world always felt a bigger place to me, that the possibilities were wide open, and that whatever direction I chose, he'd be in my corner. He's incredibly well informed, a true news hound, never short of a view and always keen to debate the latest headlines. Dad taught me to stay curious, stay informed, and that we are part of the world around us. He took me to my first rally, where I proudly marched against Nick Greiner's privatisation regime. Captured on Win News that night, brandishing my homemade protest poster upside down. And while his politics were never publicly disclosed, we were never in doubt that Dad voted for the greater good. Dad's lifelong passion for sport meant he naturally became our team manager, aka the chief umpire heckler, for both my brother and I. Cheering us on from the sidelines at our various sporting endeavours, my dad taught us the importance of always putting in your best efforts, and that while we might not always win, he'd be with us all the way. It was little wonder then that I was a news junkie from an early age, with Dad switching on the ABC radio and reading 2 newspapers before heading out the door each morning. I developed a keen sense of world affairs and politics in primary school, reading the world pages of the Illawarra Mercury over my bowl of Weet-Bix. I came to understand that there was great injustice in the world, places where people were not free, where kids just like me did not have enough to eat and could not go to school, and that injustice and imbalance were present in my corner of the world too. I credit the New South Wales public school system for taking that foundational understanding and sharpening it, deepening those convictions and giving me the confidence to act on them. The opportunities open to me in a regional area through my public school education were incredible. Not only comprehensive academic programs, but opportunities in sport, in public speaking, excursions, leadership development, drama and music. I did 7 school spectaculars. Hey. Sorry about that, Mum.
Watch
out. These opportunities came directly from the teachers that I was fortunate enough to have, particularly in my senior years, and the friends that I was on the journey with. Teachers like my indomitable drama teacher, Julie McGregor, for showing us that theatre and the arts are profoundly political forces for change. To Lorraine Peed for showing us that culture is a construct and there are many valid ways of seeing the world. Tina Hollins, my lifelong backer and a gently guiding hand. Milton Cox, whose early morning enthusiasm for teaching Marx and the French Revolution impressed upon me the price of liberty and freedom. 7:45. Jane Sherlock for sharpening my writing skills, refusing to let me coast and pushing me to do better. Aboriginal Studies teacher and fierce Indigenous ally, Kathy Russell, and the brilliant Terry Wild, who is the very best human, creative and hilarious, and who somehow got every student to believe in themselves and unlocked the best in them. My best friends, Amy Luschwitz and Laura O'Neill, who started the Amnesty International chapter at high school and have gone on to make incredible contributions to the world since. You are the yardstick I measure my contributions against. To Luke Brown and my vocal group family for my musical education on oppression and racism, and Matt Pridham and the wonderful blokes in my circle of mates, thank you for teaching me that life is too short not to take the leap and grab the bull by the horns. During my studies at the University of Wollongong, I worked with my music teacher, Nella Magnante, at her busy studio practice. And it was there that I first learnt firsthand the challenges of running a small business, the hard work it takes, the organisation and dedication that it requires to make a small business succeed to support your family. This experience is one reason I've campaigned so hard for a special entertainment precinct in my hometown, to ensure that government helps small business where we can, then gets out of their way. I will be a strong advocate for small businesses and their needs in my electorate. After graduating from UOW with my arts honours degree, it is perhaps not surprising I went into journalism and found my first work family at the Illawarra Mercury. I learnt the importance of local mastheads and of reporters finding and telling local stories and giving a voice to those in our community who are often not heard. Local newsrooms are pivotal to our democracy. They build community spirit, hold local power to account, and capture the best and worst of a busy region. Our editorial team had the power to ignite change, exposing corruption and crime, keeping local politicians accountable, but also moving ordinary people to act. Like it or not, and moving ordinary people to act through storytelling. Like the time I did a story on a family doing it tough, who'd had the bike they'd saved so hard to buy their son stolen just before Christmas, and an anonymous donor leaving a replacement in the Mercury's foyer. I went on from the Mercury to work with the Journalists Union, the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, at a time of seismic change in the news industry. The 2008 global financial crisis had pushed businesses to the wall and advertising revenue dried up. News outlets had left their shift to online too late. Facebook vacuumed up eyeballs, tipping journalism into a race for clicks. Journalists faced an uphill battle as corporate profit motives pitted shareholder returns against the public interest and the investment in quality investigative journalism. Regional news bore the brunt of those ferocious cuts, and bustling newsrooms were whittled down. Editions once packed with local news shrunk to wafer-thin offerings. Every job cut meant fewer people asking questions, fewer stories told, less scrutiny of local decision-makers. Democracy does not suddenly die in darkness. It dims with every empty desk in a regional newsroom. So we fought for every job. We fought to retain funding for investigative journalism, to hold power to account, and for the right for journalists to do their job without fear or favour. We fought against newsroom censorship, for stronger protections for whistleblowers and the journalists who reported their revelations. We fought against coalition cuts to our public broadcasters, the ABC and SBS. Our members fought to free Peter Grest, to bring Julian Assange home, and to demand justice for journalists murdered for doing their job, like the Balibo Five, murdered 50 years ago in 1975, and Shireen Abu Akleh, killed while reporting, and these journalist killers have never been brought to justice. I pay tribute to the journalists killed around the globe this year, and especially the 187 journalists, many of whom I had followed before the appalling events of October 7, that the Committee to Protect Journalists confirms have been targeted and killed in Gaza, documenting what the UN and other experts have deemed as having the hallmarks of genocide. I pay tribute to all the journalists, writers and creatives at home who have paid with their livelihoods and reputations to report the truth. And I call on governments everywhere to take concrete action to uphold their obligations under international law, to protect journalists wherever they work, and to protect the doctors, nurses, aid workers, teachers, and all innocent people whose stories they document and tell. I learned what it takes to hold firm to your principles, that together we are always stronger than alone, that it is a privilege to stand with good people against forces far larger than any of us, and that solidarity is a doing word. I will continue to be vocal in support of journalism in the public interest and to be an advocate on the new frontier of this fight, protecting the work of our creatives and our journalists in the age of artificial intelligence. These are all lessons that have stood me in good stead to represent my community. I stand here as the 13th member for Kiama, elected on the 13th of September, from the 13th position on the ballot paper.
But the best one yet.
I am proud to stand here as the first woman to hold the seat. And that is not because our region is short of strong female leaders. Quite the opposite. Our part of the world has a proud history of women leading at local council level and at federal parliament. State government was the missing tier, and I am deeply honoured to be the one my community voted in to fulfil that role. I would like to also acknowledge the passion and the commitment of the other candidates in the election. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Australian Labor Party introducing affirmative action. It's important to recognise just how tough a fight that was. Even in the 1990s, Mr Speaker, the decade that gave us Alanis Morissette, the Cranberries, Salt and Pepper, powerful women who dominated the cultural landscape, there was still an internal battle to implement these reforms. As Tanya Plibersek has recounted, the women who pushed for affirmative action alongside the men who supported them faced ridicule, resistance and accusations of tokenism. But they understood something fundamental. Talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. I stand here as a direct product of that courageous decision. It takes a village to run a campaign, and that was especially true for those of us who are fortunate enough to come here through a by-election. I want to start by thanking the true believers in the Kiama ALP branch, those who first approached me to run, and the members who saw in me what it takes to represent our region in this place. To everyone who donated, bought a raffle ticket, hosted a yard sign, stood on a polling booth, letterboxed, wrote in support on a Facebook page, phoned, knocked on doors, raised funds, hosted street stalls, and did whatever else was asked of them to ensure we had a strong local voice in Parliament. Thank you. Thank you to the incredible members of my branch, the Kiama branch, especially our life members and our Secretary, Cathy Russell. A big thank you to the Berry Shoalhaven Heads branch members and supporters, including the KV contingent, and especially branch president Rick Gainford. to the Bomaderry North Nowra branch, particularly Secretary Anne Talbot, and to the Albion Park Oak Flats branch, especially Secretary Alison Mansell, thank you. A special thank you to my wonderful crew of supporters, many of whom are here today, some of whom have known me for a very long time, and some who are no longer with us, including life members and lifelong friends. One vote I truly miss not being able to count on this time round was that of my Nana Daff. Nan Mac was amongst the first to don a Katelin for Kiama shirt and had spares on hand to ensure she could sport it continually during the campaign and to cast her vote for me in 23. I carry her great love and support and that of my grandparents forward with me in this place. To everybody who travelled for our campaign, often huge distances on top of already demanding jobs, thank you. A special thank you to my parliamentary colleagues, particularly the class of 2023. So many of you went above and beyond to help. And I am finally joining your intake in my usual fashionably late way. I am excited to get on with the work we have ahead of us. Thank you to my hard-working Illawarra South Coast compatriots, the member for Heathcote, the member for Keira, the member for Wollongong, the member for Shell Harbour, and the member for South Coast, and the member for Bega, as well as our duty MLC for Kiama, the wonderful Dr. Sarah Kane. Your individual and collective friendship and support has meant the world to me, and from Engadine to Eden, our communities are in safe and caring hands. Thank you to my federal members, Fiona Phillips, Carol Berry and Alison Burns, such amazing women who fight for their communities every day. Thank you to the erstwhile economics guru and staunch supporter Stephen Jones for his help and support over many years. Thank you to our broader Labor Council teams. You know who you are and I love you all. To the tireless and mighty young Labor contingent who travelled from across the state or helped out from afar, especially to the mighty Young Labor Association in the Illawarra. Thank you. To the mighty trade union movement and the unions who have supported me to get here. To my MEAA family, my deep love and respect for all you do. To my community sector union, the ASU. To my union and the union of my granddad, the TWU. The wonderful HSU and their photogenic members. The AWU, particularly Tony Callanan, Paul Delaney and Paul Farrow. The USU, the CEPU, the UWU, the CW, the MEU and the SDA. Thank you, thank you. To Unions New South Wales, Shoalhaven Unions and the South Coast Labor Council, thank you. Thank you especially to Dom Offner, David Dobson, Manu Risoldi, Callum Bain, Thomas Nikolovsky, Libby Austin, Joe Griffiths and Hunter Meany. You are marvellous, and sorry again for the extra worry lines. I thank the team in the Premier's office for their hard work during a very intense by-election campaign and the work they do every day. I would like to acknowledge the dedicated public servants here in Macquarie Street and down the road in Martin Place and across the greater state and agencies. I have the utmost respect for all you do. To the Premier Chris Minns, thank you for your early and steadfast support, and to the Deputy Premier Prue Carr for believing in me from the get-go and unknowingly gifting us our campaign slogan, which has since become my personal mantra. You've got this. Now don't F it up. Words to live by. To my friends who have loved and supported me before, now you know who you are. Thanks especially to the Wright family, my Clark Street family, Bree and the Innes clan, Alex and the Gilmore gang, Gina and the Baker clan, my organising works crew, and my mates from my workplaces. To my partner and my best mate, Brian, thank you for all of your love and support. I simply would not be here without you, and I'm so lucky to be doing this with you. And to William, when you came into our lives, suddenly every decision I made was about how I could work to make the world a better place for you and your pals. I know you are already starting to understand why Mum is away at so many meetings and that this work is so much bigger than any one of us. You are the reason I stood and why my community can count on me as a strong local voice, fighting for our fair share, building a more equitable community, championing sustainable growth and ensuring that everyone has a secure home and a livable future. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.